Last few weeks, I've been trying to combat this weakness that I feel like I have in the quad, in that kind of starting position on the deadlift and in that parallel kind of position, or just about parallel position in the squat. I kind of identified that as a quad weakness, and certainly when I've, over the last few months at least, even probably longer, every time I've kind of looked at myself in the mirror, I always kind of felt the quads were underdeveloped when comparing the adductors and the glutes. And so I kind of put all that information together and I thought, okay, I think there's a quad weakness here. So for the last few weeks, I've dedicated a lot of my time addressing that. In that kind of focused training, I've noted that as kind of the days and weeks kind of went on, I felt my hip positioning in the bottom of the squat, my hip mobility go worse and worse, to the point where yesterday I came in to squat and I had quite a lot of trouble getting into some of these positions in the bottom of the squat, which I want to be in. So as a remedy to that, yesterday morning, it was a 5 o'clock session. I tried to loosen up with some glute bridges. I did 100. I think did 3 sets of 100. And that kind of really put my glutes on the map. And, I went on to squat quite well and I was quite happy with my positioning. That kind of followed through for the whole day. I went to work and I kind of noticed that my hips were a lot happier than kind of the previous week or so. Basically just walking was normal. Was better than normal, right? It was effortless. My glutes were kind of turned on and I just kind of felt lighter on my feet. I want to say the word poppy was kind of with me for the whole day yesterday. I just kind of felt explosive. And over the last sort of 6 months, I've kind of tried to define that feeling of poppy that you guys have kind of kept calling me. That poppy feeling, I've always kind of thought it was related to, when you have those days where the bar kind of feels extra light. Now, over the time, I've kind of tried to identify, what movements, what muscle groups kind of make you feel that way. Is it the upper back? Is it the glutes? Is it the quads? Like, what is it about the human body that kind of gives you that explosiveness feeling? Yesterday, I didn't really do anything differently other than add the glute bridges, and I had that feeling. So right now in my mind, I want to say that poppiness, the feeling of poppy, is relating to kind of that mind-muscle connection with the glutes. We all know that the glutes are kind of the powerhouse of the body. It's what kind of produces most of the hip extension. It's what produces most of the propulsion when running. So it's a very important muscle group. When you focus so heavily on a certain muscle group, like the quad, there comes this risk with it, which I've kind of identified before, but it kind of snuck up on me this time. And that's kind of your pelvis tilting forward even more. Now, I generally sit in an anterior pelvic tilt. I always have been. That's kind of my normal resting position of the pelvis. And over the time, I've kind of tried to combat this with all sorts of different ideas. Stretching the hip flexors, strengthening the hamstrings, the core. I've kind of tried all these different things, and I kind of never really completely addressed it. When you put squat every day into the mix, it also becomes even more kind of hard to address this because, the quads work every single day, especially when you're training with training maxes. So it's kind of a hard thing. On top of that, I've recently put in a lot of quad work. So my anterior pelvic tilt has gotten worse. Now, in previous times, when my pelvic tilt has gotten really bad, I used to kind of get lower back pain. I don't have lower back pain this time around, but I feel like my guts are spilling forward. My quads have certainly increased in size. I just feel like there's a balance issue here. So yesterday, spent all day thinking about how I felt and what I did, and I think now I need to kind of put some more attention towards the glutes. Just to kind of restore that balance. I still think the quads have to improve, but part of this mix needs to be my glute work as well. Now, in my back of my mind, I'm just thinking you just do, squatting, more squatting. The trouble with that is, like I pointed out before, is that squatting is a movement which is very compound and very technical. And when you have weaknesses in your body just kind of goes back to the stuff that it knows really well, the muscles that work really well for it. So you can sometimes not address your weaknesses. However, when you do high repetition squats, everything kind of seems to get hit really well. So that's one way of doing it. And certainly that's what I'm going to continue to do, especially with the bodyweight stuff. I'm really enjoying the bodyweight squats, and on day 600 I will be doing 600 bodyweight squats, so that's coming up. But it got me thinking about how to do it. So you guys saw in this video me doing hip thrusts. So yesterday I did bridges. Today I wanted to experiment with hip thrusts. Hip thrusts are kind of, it's a good exercise, but I feel like it's flawed in the sense that it hurts the front hip. It hurts, the bar hurts. So I kind of put that PVC pipe you guys saw over the top of it to kind of try and make the bar a bit fatter and kind of less digging into you. But when the weight gets heavy, even that kind of hurts. And not that it really hurts that you can't go on with it. You can. It's just that top portion of that lift, when you want to posteriorly pelvic tilt your pelvis, you know, that pain, discomfort kind of prevents you from really kind of thrusting forward. So it's not kind of the best solution, I think. You know, I've heard Brett Contreras talk about this in the last few days quite a lot. I've kind of did some reading and listened to him. And he did something like 650 pound on or something like this, 600 on the, you know, glute thrusts or the hip thrusts. But I don't see him doing, you know, crazy amount of deadlifting numbers. I don't think I've seen him do 600-700 pounds. And often kind of in the last few years that I've kind of been interested in the squat everyday journey, and even before, I've kind of seen girls, you know, very light girls, small girls do quite impressive numbers on the hip thrust, but they can't deadlift huge amounts. So there's like this disconnect that I feel like there is between, you know, really good hip thrust numbers and squat and deadlift. There's like a disconnect. I don't know if there's a massive carryover there. I don't know whether you guys have had different experience. You know, I don't know. I just feel like maybe there's not so much carryover there. But certainly if you want to address your glutes, it's a really good way to do it because it kind of really hits it hard. So anyway, lots of thinking, lots of kind of addressing certain things. I'm still kind of on the path to get better quads, still on the path to hit Bulgarian split squats and bodyweight squats. But it's just interesting to see what the pelvis is doing as you're doing some of these things. Anyway, guys, I'm going to get ready to go to a night shift until the next session. Peace out.